I still wave at the screen. Just wave, tell people, hey, and I know you're telling me hi back. We have such a good crowd here. I want to go ahead and get started. Start the meeting, start everything off, kick off. First of all, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to Black Women's Congressional Alliance for having these type of events. One of the goals of BWCA is essentially to put Black women in position to advance in the House, to advance in the Senate, to advance in the executive branch, and to advance on K Street. So many of us, I have been on the Hill for 13 and a half years, and just seeing Black women thrive, seeing more and more Black women in position has been such an inspiration to me. So we are looking to see who opportunities at the Biden-Harris White House and beyond, opportunities in the administration, how to get there. A lot of people have seen other people go to the Biden-Harris administration or to any administration. Some of us knew people in the Obama administration, and we have not realized the various paths that they took to get there. But also, some people just want to know, what does it take? It's not just because this person is also charmed and blessed. There may have been an application process. And we just want to see, and we know it's attainable if that is what we want. So thank you so much. Tonight we have my good friend Linda Shim, and Linda is in the priority placement office at the White House. So let's just go ahead and get into it, Linda. Linda, why don't you just introduce yourself to the group? It's a lot. It is almost 80 people on this call. So there is a lot of interest here. And so we will have a good number of questions, but go ahead and introduce us and give us some introductory remarks. Let us know a little bit what we need to know. And then I'm going to ask you a few more questions.
Hi guys. Look at me. I just waved at the screen too. I can't help it. Just feels like the most natural thing to do. I'm so excited to be with you, be with all of you here today. Thank you so much, Hope, for organizing. And thank you, Keenan, for letting us use your Zoom account. It's so fun to be on this side of the Black Women's Congressional Alliance events. I've definitely tuned in for a few during the pandemic and even went to a few in-person events before things shut down. So I'm so excited to be with you all here. Before I start, I just have to put forth the disclaimer that this conversation is off the record and I'm here in my personal capacity and not representing the White House, but happy to provide any insight that I can. And just for a quick intro, most of my career was also on the Hill. I first started off with former Congresswoman Jane Harman from California back in the day, and then sort of ended my last stint on the Hill being Chief of Staff to Congresswoman Judy Chu from California. And then from there, I did a quick stint in the private sector and started working for the Office of Presidential Personnel in early February, and have been working on working with the priority placement team. Really the best way to describe it is I do sort of congressional engagement for PPO for the office. We've got a fair amount of incoming from members, but also there are a lot of things that the office has to think about in regards to their interaction with the Hill, whether it's in thinking about, confirming nominees in the Senate to, just making sure we're getting great nominees out there who really reflect the diversity of our country. So happy to take any questions you guys have, and Hope, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you so much. A lot of times, people showing up in their personal capacity is the best way, because that's where you get the real game. You get the real game when people talk after work, and and when we get off work and after work. And that's actually how BWCA started. We started, chatting after work when we all got off work to download and talk about our lives and how we wanted to move forward. So I want to just get right into things and just clear up one misconception about working. Well, no. Let's back this up. When we talk about opportunities in the Biden-Harris administration, where are these opportunities? Are they just at the White House? Are they just at the executive office of the president? Like, where actually can people work?
Yeah, great question. I mean, really, people can work anywhere, but let me try organizing sort of how things work within the administration. And obviously, we're still well into the first year of President Biden's term. So, as I mentioned, I work at PPO. We help handle close to or around 4,000 political appointments that the president makes, and they tend to be at the federal agencies. So these are the people that are usually leading the way on, the president's priorities when it comes to the work at the agencies. So, especially for those of you on the Hill who are working very hard on passing legislation that really align with the president's priorities right now. Today seemed like a very big day for the legislative world. If you think about it this way, once you all pass legislation and send it over to the executive, and after it's signed by the president, you need people at the agencies that are going to be executing on those policy priorities as dictated by Congress. So really, if you think about it, the president is going to want people there who are able to lead the agencies in the direction that he is prioritizing. So we have appointments that are at the most senior level, right, with the cabinet level positions, to the other Senate confirmed positions like assistant secretaries, undersecretaries, and then we also have policy advisors, both senior and somewhat junior levels as well, since the junior staff really do have to help our senior political officials carry out their work. So we have a range of positions. In regards to, the White House or the executive office of the president, those appointments or hires occur outside of PPO. So that's one thing to clear up. Usually it's the office that is the individual offices that make the hiring decisions for their team. So for example, if it's the Office of Leg Affairs, then it's the head of the Office of Leg Affairs within the White House that makes the hiring decision, versus if we're talking about Leg Affairs positions within agencies, whether it's the Assistant Secretary for Leg Affairs to a senior advisor on the Leg Affairs team, those appointments go through PPO.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Linda. I think one of the things that Linda mentioned is that, the president would like to have people on his team that are interested in advancing his mission. And I think that's another thing is that here in the House and in the Senate as well, Chairman Thompson, that's who I work for, and other members want to see this administration succeed. So that's why we always get so excited when we see good people leave the House, leave the Senate, or come in from the private sector that will also help the president advance his mission. I do want to go back to another thing you said, because we've seen our friends. We've seen Shalonda, Shawanza, Angela, Nicole Tisdale, great friends of ours, leave their positions in the House. Nicole was in the House and then she went to the private sector, but now she's in the administration as well. But we've seen them leave. And then, but one thing about them, they were all senior staffers. And so many people have asked me if this was an event just for senior staffers. And I want you to just reiterate that there are about positions for people that weren't senior staffers in the House or weren't senior staffers in the Senate, and probably right at this juncture in their career would not be senior staffers in administration. But is there room for someone that is just starting in their career or in the early stages of their career?
Yeah, and what a great group of women you just named. All four that I've seen, or four that I've seen in just this week. So they're doing an amazing job, and I think we all should be very proud of the work that they're doing in the administration. So I think, yes, they are very senior level folks, and they are tasked to do the difficult jobs that they're doing. But Hope, you make a good point. We do have positions, I think in each component at the White House and within agencies where, there are positions available for mid-level staffers. So, I would try to think about it this way. So for myself, I think I've done every position available on the Hill. I started off as an intern, staff assistant, LC, LA, LD, chief. So by the time I entered this administration, I felt like it was the right time for me, and I was going into a position that I was really excited about. We have definitely placed, I think, senior LAs, LDs. We've had, I think, some LCs come in for junior level positions, but they tend to be more administrative. So I think it's best to really think through sort of at what level you'd like to enter an administration. Or if you're really excited about it now, there are definitely possibilities out there. So I think when you're super senior, the type of positions you might be going for might be a bit narrower, but when you're a more mid-level staffer, then I think the opportunities are broad because you can really fit into any type of agency. It's not like we're absolutely looking for an expert on, for example, agriculture issues to be able to place you as a legislative advisor or a legislative analyst at the agency. It definitely helps. But, at that point, there is a little bit more flexibility because we are looking for people who know Congress and really know the process, the legislative process on the Hill. So it's really those types of skill sets that we look for those types of positions.
That's great. And I also think even for the more administrative positions, if you are excellent at moving a member of Congress throughout Washington, D.C. and the district, you probably would be great at moving a cabinet secretary or a Senate confirmed individual throughout DC and throughout the nation. I think that we just need good people at every level and in every executive branch agency. So I have another thing that has come up, and I'm going to bring up a man just because we grew up together, and he is actually my neighbor. Like, our moms live right across the street from each other right now as we speak. Trey Baker, and then of course Ashley Etten. People that did campaign work or did transition work. What if I'm a staffer and at the time and they have great positions in the White House, in the office of the president, office of the vice president. What if I could not do that? I did not have the opportunity to leave the Hill, to join the campaign, because we all know the campaign is a bridge to getting on the Hill. It's also a bridge to getting in the executive branch. We've seen those examples. So what if I couldn't do that and didn't have the opportunity to do that? Do I still have a chance?
Yeah, I think you definitely do. Actually, Hope, even before you brought up campaign, I wrote down campaign to make sure to mention it. So obviously, administrations, at least in the beginning, do tend to prioritize people who were helpful to the campaign or had worked on the campaign, right? We've had people who have been with President Biden from the very beginning of his campaign, and that is definitely something to to be recognized. But, because they're coming in early, and the way that I had it described to me, which makes a lot of sense, is these appointments are jobs that are constantly going to be turning over, right? Just because someone goes into a job doesn't mean that they're going to stay in it for all 4 years. People are going to shift around. It's just like the Hill, where people are moving around all the time, or life happens and they decide to move elsewhere. So we're going to be constantly hiring for the next 4 years, at least for this term. So I don't think just because you didn't do a campaign this time around doesn't mean your opportunity is shot. It just may take a little bit more time to get your foot in through the door. But, if you're really persistent and if that is your goal to get in, continue to try, because I don't think doors are closed all 4 years if you didn't help out on the campaign. And in the future, and I think this was helpful to many of us who couldn't physically join a campaign this past cycle. The phone banking, volunteering, those types of efforts are always recognized too. So I would definitely, to the extent that it interests you, encourage that in the future.
Okay, thank you so much. So with that being said, for staffers that want to join the administration, want to advance the priorities of this administration, want to be collaborative with people that are looking for this type of advancement, how do we, and we've seen the links that come out and say apply here, apply here. They've gone far and wide. But how do I make myself stand out? How do I get past the resume bank, or what do I need to put on my resume to make it, to actually get someone to call me in?
No, of course. And this is another reason why I was excited to come join you all today, because it's groups like these that become a great resource for us over at PPO. I have lists from other staff association groups, other professional organizations, you name it, we've got it. But it's an amazing resource for us. So I would love to see an updated list from BWCA on people who are interested. What is really helpful for us to see is, the number of experience you may have had in the professional world. What is your portfolio now? What agencies are you interested in working in? At least, the 3 to 5 agencies that you might be interested in. And what are your top skill sets, right? If you're a comms director, what are the skill sets that you have? If you're a legislative staffer, what is your legislative portfolio? And what are you interested in? Just having that type of information from me from groups like BWCA, it's an amazing resource. So, as I mentioned, I have these spreadsheets. I'm pretty sure I put people in for interviews that they may not even know that I got it off a spreadsheet, where, I will have team members come up to me saying, I need this type of person with this type of skill set for this type of job. And, one of the things that I do is just kind of go through the resources that I have, see who are the relevant candidates that I can put forward for consideration, and go from there. So you can definitely get noticed, and it's really through groups like these and the organization that you do that's really helpful to us.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think when you said list the agencies that you're interested in and the positions, one thing is I haven't looked lately, but I do know months ago, or when this administration first started, the Plum Book had not been updated. Now that is not on the administration. The Plum Book is actually put out by a congressional committee. And we actually took some votes about the Plum Book recently this Congress. But since we're looking at an old Plum Book, or looking at going through public records, what do you suggest if that position is no longer there, or do we say, well, I'm a good member liaison, so put me down for ledge affairs, or I know cyber in and out, I really want to be a cyber policy analyst anywhere? What do we say?
Yes, and I apologize for the sirens going by. I live on a hospital route. No, so I say be flexible, and I hope you probably know the plum book better than me actually, but correct. Some of the, you can't help it. Some of the positions are going to be outdated and they're going to be very specific to a certain administration or really a certain time when the political leadership at an agency may have decided that they absolutely needed to create X type of position because some crisis is going on. So, but it's a very good guide. So you can at least take a look at what type of positions are available or will likely be filled. So I always mention to at least staff from the Hill, be very, I think going the legislative affairs route is a great way to get your foot in through the door, go into the agency, build your relationships, your networks, learn how the agency works, and then you see how you maneuver around from there. So but if you're also as you put it, Hope, a cyber expert, then really, stay in when you hopefully submit your information that you are mostly interested in cyber policy, right? Cyber is huge right now. So, it's one of those situations where clearly the president has identified it as a priority for his administration. So we're going to be focused on making sure he has the political staff and the right agencies to be able to carry out that work. So, noting your policy expertise is also very important. But I really say keep an open mind, um, and be flexible.
Thank you so much. And what about if I am offered an interview or even offered a position or a first or second interview at an agency that I know nothing about or does not interest me, or even a position that, you know, I've never even heard of, like somebody like me, I am Homeland, National Security. So I know national security agencies, but if someone in my shoes was offered a position at something involving at like FHFA, my best friend works there at FHFA, and I don't know federal housing finance. Uh, and what to do about that? If I were to decline that, would I be blackballed, or should I just go for it? Or should I come back and write the person that initially initiated the email and say, I'm not a finance person, but I would do better at security? Like, give us a little, how does that work?
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully, we're going to be reaching out to folks who are interested in the subject matter in which the role lives in. But I totally understand. We definitely have experiences where candidates are not 100% interested in the position that we would like to interview them for. So I think it's, if you're absolutely not interested in the position, I mean, I would personally advise, um, then you can just politely decline to be considered. I don't think it blackballs you in any way, and we'll note that. And if you end up, sharing, but I would love to be considered for X type of positions in the future, then we'll note that and move on. And if and include that in your file so that if for some reason another position comes up and um, your expertise or your skill set is what we're looking for, then we can refer back to you again. So I certainly don't think it blackballs any candidate to decline to be considered, because we are really just trying to find people and match them with their skill sets. So, but at the same time, just even from a personal standpoint, I wouldn't want anyone to, go into an interview process for a job that they know that they won't like or do not want to accept.
Okay, thank you so much. So, someone has asked, because we're transitioning. Is there room for virtual work? Does this administration allow for virtual work?
So I think that is still being hammered out as to, I think the agencies are going to have their own policies. And I think that is still TBD and fluid, similar to how it seems to be with the rest of the world, right? Whether it's the private sector or the Hill. So hopefully we'll have more clarity for folks on that soon.
Okay. So, are you going to put out a link for people to apply, or how do you want us to handle this?
Yeah, I can certainly put one in the chat in regards to sort of our portal here. Let's see here. And then that way, if you haven't already, please go to this link to apply. But if you have, no need to do that again. If you have updates that you want to make, please feel free to reach out, and not to volunteer BWCA, but if you want to reach out through BWCA on those updates, we can try to work with you to make those updates.
Okay. And what about this? Let's say I have applied through CBA has turned in my information, maybe a member of Congress or another group has turned in my information. So what do I need to do in the interim to promote myself? Or, I mean, what do I need to do after my name is entered into a spreadsheet? Is there any way I can promote my candidacy, or make myself stand out, or reiterate to someone that I'm available? Anything other than putting myself in the next resume bank?
A lot of this is a waiting game as well, because we are, I guess one thing that I didn't mention up at the top is, even though there are around 4,000 appointments, we're not working on all 4,000 at one time. We just physically don't have the manpower to do it. So I know people wondered, I haven't heard by now, it's already July, but we're barely even halfway there. So, and not only that, but as I mentioned, things will continue to turn over, and we'll have to continue to fill positions that people either vacate or the fact that people just kind of move on with their lives. So I think just, what I ask of groups is, maybe every month or two, send us an updated list so that we know who continues to be interested. And for example, maybe you got a new job and you really want to stay in that job for a year, then you can ask to be removed from the list for consideration for the time being, and then you can put yourself back on once you're ready to consider new opportunities again. So a lot of it is patience, and like I said, we do look at the resources that you all send over. So hopefully that's a helpful answer, but a lot of this is a waiting game.
Thank you so much. Exercise in patience, but I'm sure it will pay off. And the wins that this administration, the history involving this administration, in my opinion, I think it is worth the wait, worth the wait to join and exercise of patience, especially if it's something that you want. Let's go back to, if someone is there a way to get a competitive advantage when you just haven't had that much career experience? Or is there a way to get into some of the intern programs? I know White House Fellows are actually for people that are kind of like mid-senior career, and maybe we can just have a short discussion about that. But if I want to be a White House intern, or I have done my interning on the Hill and I just want to answer mail, but I want my foot in the door, how do I get a competitive advantage?
I think I think we should have information on the internship program in the near future. It just hasn't been active due to the nature of the pandemic, and many of us were not going into the office, like I'm sure many of you, working remotely, and due to just the nature of security as well. I think there are a number of different factors as to why the internship program wasn't started from the beginning. But I'll definitely work with you all to send over information once I learn more about when it will start again, and if there are any helpful tips in sort of getting your foot in through the door there.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to go back. This question has come up in the chat a lot, and I know we discussed the plum book, and but if is there any other way to find out what is actually open or what positions are open? Or do we just need to send our skill set? Because you never know. It may be something out there that's a little bit different, a little more interesting than what we ever envisioned for ourselves. What do you think?
Yeah, so yeah, there is I think the Plum Book is truly the best guide. And for some candidates, they're very specific about the roles that they want. And it might be that they want to be in two or three very specific offices within an agency. And if that's not going to happen, then they're not very interested. So I think specifying what offices you might be interested in, and some of them get very specific, right? Like, the terrorist financing office at Treasury, the environment and oceans office at state. So I think though it again, I really encourage folks to look at the Plum Book to see even where we have political appointments traditionally, and what the nature of the positions are. Like for some offices, because it might be very few positions. It might just be 4 or 5 positions in there, and it's usually the top senior political that would be in the office. Maybe they'll have a deputy and then 2 admin people, and that might be it. So it's also good to know that when you're targeting a certain office, good to do your research to see, okay, is this a office that traditionally had positions for people with my level of skills, right? So I would definitely encourage you to look there as well. And I'm trying to think what other resources there are. And maybe we can do another session, and I can share a bit more about what is available at the time. And like I said, I'm constantly looking at various ledge affairs roles across all agencies, and would always love to have more names from the Hill. So I can't wait to get that updated information so that I can utilize some of the new interested folks or the current interested folks who had sent in their name prior. So please send me your names.
As a person that interacts with ledge affairs more than I interact with almost anybody, I encourage you to apply. We really need the people at Ledge Affairs now are great. One person left my office to work at Ledge Affairs at DHS, so we have great people at Ledge Affairs. Another person is going, but we need great Ledge Affairs people. Ledge Affairs people are some of the most relied upon people for people that work in Congress. So you've heard Linda has said it more than once. Look at Ledge Affairs. Now, there are some, this information did not just go to people on the Hill. There are people that have had advanced degrees, that have worked in the private sector, or maybe people that have done a stint in the federal government in the executive branch as career employees and gone to the private sector, or maybe have done years and years of PhD experience and research. People that are not campaign people, people that aren't House Senate people, do they have a shot?
Yeah, no, I think they do. I think one thing to think about is some political appointments, appointed positions are extremely technical, where there's really only going to be maybe a dozen people in the country that are qualified to do it, just due to the nature of of the subject matter itself. Some are going to require just people who have PhDs, because that's just the level in which the depth of understanding that the political principal needs to have in that role. So I think there are, one way I would go about doing the research is seeing who may have held a position that seems interesting to you, who held that in past administrations, and see if it's something that you also have sort of the skill sets for. I mean, we bring in appointees from all different sectors and across government. So I don't think um, I think the opportunities are vast and wide. The other thing that I wanted to mention was actually that thought just went straight out of my head. It'll come back to me. But no, I don't think people are limited just because they are in a different sector other than the Hill. I think especially if you have a great understanding of how a federal agency works, or if you worked for an entity that had a lot of interaction with the agency, and you have an understanding of how the agency works through in that way, then that's another nexus for how you can be perceived to have the right type of experience to be seriously considered.
Okay, great. And I know some people are asking about the Plum Book or how to get to it. And the Plum Book is widely available. Just Google it, and it will come up. It is. I don't think it's been updated. I haven't looked at it in months, but it is. It is there. It is. You just Google it, and it will come up. It's a GPO document, and at least now it's not a big thick book that you have to hold. And so you can actually, it's a PDF. You can do search function on there. And also BWCA's email address for you to send your resumes or send your interest is in the chat, so we can compile that and get that to Linda. Someone else wanted to know is about boards or councils, or is it anything that this administration is looking for employees or volunteers or people to advance the interests of the underserved, advance the interests of Black women, to advance the interests of urban communities or rural communities? There has been about 4 or 5 questions about specific, and someone even it is anything that we're doing to advance the disability community. How can someone that especially has experience in those areas get their name in the hat for that?
For sure. And I think you were just touching on sort of the boards and commissions, or the advisory councils that the agencies have. Those positions tend to be filled by people who have a depth of knowledge on the nature, the subject matter of the advisory council or the board or commission that that they are seeking. So if it's an education related board, let's say, that's for a scholarship fund that happens to be a board that requires a presidential appointment by statute. Some of those tend to be also Senate confirmed. So, individuals have to go through the Senate confirmation process, but they also tend to be filled by people who have that wealth of expertise. So it might just be folks who might be, many years into their career, just because it's, as they're tasked to also help run the board or the commission, they had to have a certain level of experience and governance experience in order to do that. And a lot of those are also part-time, or I think they're not full-time roles. So it also tends to be people who are able to balance sort of their current career and able to give the volunteer time necessary for those boards and commissions. And then, Hope, I'm trying to remember the second part of your question.
Specific communities, like if I
Yes.
had experience with the disability community, or I wanted to work with the Black women maternal health issue, like is there a place for me?
Exactly. So those types of sort of specific boards and commissions. So if they require a political appointment or a presidential appointment, those are also in the plum book. So you're going to see, and I think it's usually the last section of the plum book that includes sort of the large list of boards and commissions. So if you're a experienced member of the disability community, there are a few different commissions that you may want to take a look at. Ability One is one of those boards. I believe there is a council, the President's Council on Intellectual Disabilities, that I think is also based out of HHS. So those are just the two that I can think off the top of my head. But the Plum Book, if it is a presidential appointment that is required, it lists out those boards and commissions. What it does and what it may not list are, some agencies have hundreds of advisory councils. Like I think HHS alone has a few hundred that each office may manage. Those I'm not sure are in the Plum Book, but also worth researching if that's what you're interested in.
Okay, great, 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 great. We are respectful of Linda's time. If anyone has anything further, drop that question in the chat. Linda, do you have anything else that I haven't asked that we need to know?
No, I think this was very comprehensive, but yes, if you have any other questions, um, feel free to include in the chat. And then I think I see one, the last one, sort of how much weight does a member of Congress have on their submissions? And do you recommend they follow up on previous submissions? So with a member of Congress recommendations, similar to other, having an employer weigh in for you, it's helpful for us to know, especially if you work for that member. Oh, okay, that member won't be upset if you are snatched up by the administration, but it's also not absolutely necessary. I think it really depends on the office that you work for and the culture of that office. So to the extent that it gets you on another list for us to review that comes from that member, that is certainly an added benefit. But I would say it's not absolutely necessary. I think there are many candidates from the Hill who have gotten through without having being flagged by a member.
Oh boy,
But
don't
just
I know. There have been many candidates that have, but like I said, we are on the same page, so we want to wish them well. But there have been some candidates, some day one candidates that left my office, that were not, that just, they said that they had not taken the time to ask the chairman, and next thing you know, through other channels. But once again, they are in leg affairs, doing great work, advancing the mission. So I have like no problem with that. But there are ways to get in the administration without asking your member. But I would say that you need to talk to your mentors and people about how to offload and massage that, especially if you're in the interview process. Um, let's see. I think one of the things is, with Hill staff, structuring your resume to like catch the administration's eye. Like, do I need to tell you that I was the lead negotiator on this infrastructure plan, or what can I do to advance, to put on my resume? Is it that I need to pull out certain legislative pieces that I've worked on? Because this has been asked before, and I asked it earlier, but especially if I'm a Hill staffer, what makes me stand out so I can be effective at HUD or agriculture or commerce? Like, what makes me stand out other than I've served for 3 or 4 years?
No, definitely. And that's a great question. I say it really comes down to the skill sets, right? And I might sound like a broken record, but this is the usual advice that I give anyone who asks me. So if you know how to write talking points, if you know how to draft amendments, if you know how to um, um, if you know how to analyze amendments, all those types of skill sets, I would just try to include in your resume if they're not in there already, because really what I think folks are looking for is, okay, does this person know how to do XYZ? Have they been through this before, right? If you work on a committee related portfolio for your boss, obviously list the committee and list what you do. Do you staff them at markups? Do you have you pitched any hearings? I think those are great items to also jot down, because part of Ledge Affairs operations and agencies too, they're thinking about how the agency interacts with committees, but also how the principal has to testify in committees. So, those types of, Hope knows as well, we're, being in a committee. So those are great skill sets to add as well, because that's really something that they're looking for. If you, as Hope put it, played a critical role in a piece of notable legislation, or even if you got a bill passed through the House with your boss, then that is something definitely to note, because that indicates that you know how to take a piece of legislation from start to finish. So I think that's a really great piece of information to add as well.
I know we've done this before through this organization and other organizations, but maybe we need to have a little short, a mini on resume refreshing, and maybe that's something we can consider for the fall. So thank you. Well, Linda, I think we have the information in the chat for people to submit their resumes. We will get them over to you. Linda's advice was list your skill set, list top 3 agencies you're interested in, right? Some of the things that you're good at, skilled at, experienced in: policy, ledge affairs. You've taken a bill from the House, it's gone to the Senate. You staff these members, or you know how to shift a member from, you know how to do advance, you know how to get members downtown or get members out of town. House people know that members are trying to leave this week. But that is good. And also, making yourself stand out. And it sounds as if we've said ledge affairs a lot. It sounds as if there's a need for that, but there's a need for people at all levels, from the most senior levels to mid levels to administrative staff, or even staff that are going from what on the Hill would be junior to mid. And of course, this administration has stated from the outset that it values diversity. And I don't think that Linda would be here talking to us if that were not the case. And we definitely wouldn't welcome you if we didn't think that this administration valued diversity. But I wish everyone on the call well. I hope that you all are staying safe. Those of you that are on the Hill, if you leave the Hill and go to the administration, we'll be very happy for you, because we know that you'll do good work in either place. And of course, even people coming from the private sector, or people switching from career to non-career appointments. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. August recess comes soon for the House and hopefully for the Senate. Joycelyn is celebrating. Honey, when I hang up, I'm going to do a little dance. But see you all later. Take care.